Codominance. Written by CurlyStar09. Read for you by Gemini Wishes. Chapter 2. Planning. A lawyer lackey for the Hero Commission joined them shortly after, with questions that none of them knew how to answer. Bakugo was too busy ignoring him, taking turns staring at the baby and then at Kirishima, who hadn't said 2 words since the revelation.
How were they able to do this?
Bakugo spoke up suddenly.
Apparently, hero DNA is easy to access when you have people working at hospitals and stealing the blood-covered bandages and such,
Deku explained as he ran a frustrated hand through his hair.
This is why we insist heroes get treated at facilities pre-approved by the Hero Commission,
the lackey said as if it was an obvious solution.
You said there were 75 others?
Kirishima spoke up suddenly. Deku nodded, his hands becoming fists at his side.
75 other attempts. A lot of them didn't make it to full term and were never born. Others...
Todoroki placed a hand on his boyfriend's shoulder.
The others used other combinations of hero DNA, mostly the number 1's DNA. The babies were seen as defective once testing revealed that they were quirkless, and they were disposed of.
Deku finished.
They killed so many because they weren't what they wanted. Some were born with deformities or health problems. They wasted no time trying to start over.
Deku was mad. The calm anger that Bakugo knew meant someone was going to get smashed into next week if they were lucky enough to wake up then.
So, about the child, the Hero Commission will take custody and...
No, Kirishima said as he picked up the baby, holding him carefully against his chest.
The Hero Commission will have nothing to do with raising him. I'll take him in. I'm his father after all, right? There's the problem of people finding out what the baby is, the lackey continued. Then don't let it get out to the press. You guys are supposed to be good at that, right? Kirishima barked back.
One of his hands brushed the baby's hair back. The baby reached up, grabbing Kirishima's hand on his own.
Kirishima, this is going to be a lot. Hero work and being a single parent? Would you be able to...
Deku didn't know how to finish.
Who the fuck said I was letting him do this alone?
Bakugo spoke up suddenly, standing up to glare at anyone who may try to challenge him. He could feel Kirishima's eyes on him, though, and that made him nervous. What if Kirishima didn't want his help? What was he supposed to do then?
We cannot allow... The lackey started protesting. You don't want this to get out? We're your best fucking option, Bakugo told him. Or would you like to go into a legal battle with us over custody? Explain why a baby with our DNA should be under your care?
The lackey stared at him openly for a while, as everyone in the room stared at them. But Dynamite had never backed down from a fight, and he wasn't about to start now.
I'll talk to my superiors,
he finally said as he turned to head out of the door. Once he was gone, Deku turned towards them.
Are you guys sure? This is going to be a lot. Besides, you guys have hero work on top of taking care of a baby. I have vacation days I haven't used up,
Kirishima said quickly, his arms tightening around the baby protectively.
And I'm sure Fatgum would have no problem with me taking some more time off for this. I have my own agency. I can take time off if I fucking want,
Bakugo huffed, crossing his arms across his chest.
Do you guys even know how to parent a kid? Todoroki asked bluntly.
Bakugo hesitated for a second before responding.
It's not like we have any other fucking option. The kid staying here would lead to them trying to make him into the ideal hero. How would that be any different from him still being with the villains?
Todoroki nodded, and Bakugo knew he had made his point. The kid was not safe staying with the Commission. The best option was Kirishima and him raising the baby together, giving him a loving home. They could protect him, and most importantly, he was sure no one had as good intentions as they did.
Can you leave us alone for a bit? Kirishima spoke up suddenly.
I think Bakugo and I need to talk this over a bit, he explained. Deku nodded, pulling Todoroki out by the hand after him. We'll start looking more into the research notes. Hopefully we can figure out more of their plan. Bakugo watched them leave, before turning to Kirishima, who could not stop looking at the baby in his arms. Bakugo's heart started beating wildly in his chest, and he couldn't seem to be able to speak. That was Kirishima, who he had been in love with for years, holding their child. It felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke on him since this hadn't happened like he would have liked.
You don't have to do this,
Kirishima said, finally looking up at Bakugo, taking the blonde by surprise.
What do you mean I don't have to fucking do this? You have your career to think about. You're always off on a mission. A baby would put a stop to a lot of that. Besides, I can handle the— Shut up, Bakugo told Kirishima as he made his way over to him, tempted to place a hand on Kirishima's cheek to make the redhead look at him. Instead, he reached over to brush the baby's hair. Fuck, the kid really did look like Kirishima. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to leave you alone. This is also going to affect your fucking career. You shouldn't be doing this alone. Kirishima turned to look at Bakugo, his eyes full of worry. You won't regret this? Never, Bakugo answered without hesitation, suddenly aware of just how close to each other they were. The baby was the only reason why there was any space between them at all. Kirishima nodded, but Bakugo could still tell he was worried. He would just have to prove how committed he was, but that would probably take some time. You're moving in with me, Bakugo said suddenly. What? No, that would be— I can't do that, Kirishima argued. I have a house. I have enough room for you and the baby. We're gonna need a name for him. I also have a backyard and space for him to play in when he gets older. Could even have a playground in the backyard if we want. Your apartment wouldn't be big enough for the three of us, Bakugo explained, trying not to think too much about Kirishima moving in with him. Fuck, he had to hide a lot of Red Riot merch before then. I guess you have a point, Kirishima admitted. I think Riot would like the backyard space, Kirishima said with a small smile. Wait, you are not bringing your dog along. He could hurt the kid, Bakugo huffed. He would never. He's a sweetheart. You just judge him harshly from that one time he jumped on you, Kirishima said with a laugh. Besides, your cat is more of a threat than my sweet Riot. I would never, Bakugo defended his cat Alboroto. We'll figure that out later, Kirishima said with a shake of his head as if trying to fight a laugh. First things first, are you sure you can take time off? I already said I could, shitty hair. Bakugo rolled his eyes with a bit of a grin. All right, so what are we naming this little guy then? Kirishima asked, looking at the baby who was starting to drift off. No clue, Bakugo said as he watched the baby nodding off. But I am for sure exploding that onesie as soon as possible. No kid of ours is going to get caught wearing Deku merch. Ours, Kirishima echoed, eyes wide as he looked down at the now sleeping infant. The Hero Commission had rules for them because, of course, they needed to make rules for something so complicated. The rules were simple enough, Kirishima thought. They just wanted to make sure the baby was healthy, most of all due to how he was created. The first rule was that they would be required to have monthly checkups for the baby. The second was that no one was allowed to know how they suddenly had a child. The only people allowed to know were other heroes, and that was a limited list. Only those that they were close to, and even then they had to be pre-approved, resulting in them taking a good portion of their time writing a list of people they wanted to let know about the situation. Most of the list was made up of their former UA classmates and teachers. Bakugo tried to argue about their parents knowing, but got a constant no matter what he tried. Bakugo grumbled to himself at the fact that he had lost the argument. The third was that they would be involved in the rest of the case. While Deku finished looking into the data they had taken, there was a lot, and the number one hero had a busy schedule without the new assignment. We will provide you with anything you need for it. Diapers, formula, even provide babysitters if needed. The lackey, as Bakugo kept referring to him, said. Kirishima felt a bit rude not catching the man's name, and the fact that the nickname had stuck. He's not an it. He's a person, Kirishima clarified, for what was probably the 10th time. We don't fucking need anything from you. Bakugo stepped in, a hand to Kirishima's shoulder. The baby was sleeping on the table on his blanket, undisturbed by the heavy conversation going on around them. I don't want you fuckers claiming that we owe you for shit we could have done ourselves, Bakugo told them. Besides, I already ordered everything we need. Bakugo grinned widely, lifting his phone for everyone to see the purchase order on it. Got him some dynamite and Red Riot onesies. He's gonna look fucking awesome. That is all well and good, but the commission will be available for any assistance needed, especially during missions and such, the lackey continued. We'll keep that in mind, Kirishima told him, already tired of all the red tape that seemed to be coming up with this situation. Thank you. Can you please just let us do the planning? Both of us have agreed to not take any missions for about a month. Kirishima couldn't help but feel like that was a long time, but also as if it was too short. Yes, I will be around if you need anything. The lackey hesitated. He will be coming home with us today as well, Kirishima told him, not even asking if it was possible. He can get his checkup and then we'll leave immediately after.
The lackey just nodded, unable to argue against two pro-heroes. He turned and left quickly, already mumbling into a phone he pulled out of his pocket.
Do you think he hates us yet?
Bakugo grinned.
Probably, Kirishima chuckled.
The doctor they're taking him to. He's safe?
Yes,
Bakugo answered quickly.
From what I heard, she was trained by Recovery Girl, so I think we can trust her. Just in case, we can make sure they never do a checkup without us around.
Kirishima nodded, a bit of the nervous energy in his stomach going away. Not all of it, but enough for now. He was freaking out, but tried to seem calm on the outside, if only to make sure no one would question if he could do this or not. If he could raise a child with a man he had been hopelessly in love with for years and not fall apart during the process. Just knowing that they would be living together made him sweat nervously. He wasn't sure he would be able to survive this.
We still need a name, Kirishima mused instead,
which seemed more doable at the moment.
I can come up with a name for him,
Bakugo offered.
I don't... Do you not trust me? Bakugo huffed. Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite, Kirishima deadpanned as an explanation.
Bakugo rolled his eyes.
You say that as if it isn't the best hero name you've ever heard.
Bakugo, you're my bro, and I feel like our friendship is too important to be thrown away over me telling you the truth about your hero name, Kirishima said, but the smile on his face gave it away that he was joking. Bakugo let out a humorless chuckle.
You little... We can come up with a name later. I think I just want to get him out of here right now.
Kirishima let out a sigh.
We can take him home soon enough,
Bakugo promised.
We can start planning your move as well. How fast do you think you can...
I can move in within a couple of days, probably.
If I hire a moving service,
Kirishima considered. The baby stirred on the table, pulling their attention.
Sounds like a plan,
Bakugo said with a nod. Kirishima felt a light blush at that. He was actually going to move in with Bakugo, with her child. It felt so unreal, like a dream almost. The problem is that it wasn't like Bakugo wanted him. At least not the way Kirishima hoped for. Not the way Kirishima wanted. It made his heart feel tight in his chest. But it was what they had to do. They needed to make sure the child was safe. That was going to be their main focus now. Everything they did from now on was for him, even if Kirishima had to push down his feelings for his best friend. Chapter 3. Moving in. Bakugo let out a sigh. He had finally been able to get the little devil down for a nap. He had been fussy most of the day, which he didn't blame him for. The kid had gotten used to having Kirishima around in the last couple of days, while Bakugo had gotten things together at his place. They had been staying at Kirishima's place for the most part these days. He had helped his best friend pack his stuff in boxes and decide what they needed at Bakugo's place. They had spent a lot of time together, but the kid was attached to Kirishima, and Bakugo honestly couldn't say anything. He wasn't any better, after all. They had decided that Bakugo would be at his place with the baby, while Kirishima had the movers at his place. Made it easier to keep the whole situation under wraps. Not only that, but they didn't want the kid to be exposed to too many people. The kid had just gotten used to being around them, after all. Not only that, they were supposed to keep him away from the public eye. Bakugo rolled his eyes. It was just a matter of time before everyone found out. It wasn't like they would keep the kid trapped inside his whole life as the fucking villains did. The medical exam the kid had gone through came back with nothing alarming, but he was slightly underweight for his age, which had been determined to be 9 months old. 9 months. The thought made Bakugo mad. The kid had been in that horrible place being experimented on for 9 fucking months, and no one had known shit about it. Bakugo let out a shaky breath, knowing that he needed to focus on getting settled at home with Kirishima and their kid. Hunting down the bastards responsible for this would have to wait. Deku was already trying to coordinate with others in finding the other villains responsible, trying to decipher a part of the notes they have found that were written in code as well, which he should be trying to look at as well. He had copies of the notebook on his desk for him to work on. Bakugo made his way to the room that Kirishima would be staying in instead. They had decided that they would have the baby sleeping in either one of their rooms for now. The third room in the house was still under construction in order to become a nursery. The painting was almost done, and they were just waiting for the furniture to arrive. The room safe for Kirishima was empty, and it made Bakugo wonder if Kirishima was really going to be living in the same house as him. They hadn't lived together since UA, when they lived in neighboring rooms to each other in the dorms, always spending the night in each other's rooms after late-night study sessions or hanging out a bit too late to care. He had lost count of how many times he had accidentally fallen asleep in Kirishima's bed just to spend more time near the redhead, waking up trying to not seem flustered by how close Kirishima was laying next to him. He let out a sigh, walking away from his own memories. Bakugo started clearing some of the furniture in order to leave a clear path to Kirishima's room so it would be easier to get the furniture in. He was about done when his phone rang. He looked down to see the old picture of Kirishima smiling as his picture ID, back from one of their first missions as pros. He couldn't help the small smile that pulled at his lips as he answered.
Hey, Red. Almost here?
Almost, Blasty. We had to take a couple of back streets. I noticed some paparazzi. Sorry this is running later than planned.
Kirishima's voice came through, a nervous laugh at the end.
It's all right.
Bakugo reassured him as he leaned against a wall.
How's our little Pebble doing?
Kirishima asked.
The Kremlin is sleeping in my room after throwing a fit about being tired.
Bakugo chuckled.
Don't call him that.
Then maybe we should actually pick out a name for him then.
How do people name kids? It's impossible. How do you decide a name that will fit someone for the rest of their lives?
Kirishima grumbled for the 100th time.
Don't know. I guess that's why we don't have a name for the
Katsuki,
Kirishima warned.
For the lovely angel. You fucking happy now?
Bakugo snapped back, but he was sure Kirishima could hear his smile through the phone.
That's better,
Kirishima approved.
I'll be there soon. Once everything is set up, we can look at a baby book or something.
Sounds like a plan. At the rate we're going, the kid should be able to pick out his own name when he turns fucking 10.
Bakugo snorted.
Don't even joke about that.
I'll see you soon, eh?
Bakugo chuckled.
Almost home, Kats.
Kirishima answered before hanging up. Bakugo felt his heart rise to his throat at hearing those words. Home. Kirishima and Bakugo were sharing a home. Before he could enjoy that thought a bit too much for his own good, a loud cry came from his room. Bakugo let out a sigh as he hurried over. He opened the door, finding the little one laying on his back as he wailed, cheeks already red from the force as well as wet from the tears. The black hair standing at odd angles made him look adorable.
Hey, little gremlin,
Bakugo said as he made his way over, a smile on his face.
Don't tell your dad I said that.
He scooped the kid in his arms, and the crying turned into quiet sobs, his little hands grabbing hold of Bakugo's shirt.
You just don't like being alone, huh? I get that,
he told the kid as he made his way out of the room. A hand brushed down soft black hair before placing a kiss on still wet cheeks.
Don't worry, I'm here.
Bakugo walked around the house with the kid on his hip, trying to calm the child by talking about whatever came to mind.
A is coming soon, and when he does, we need to go hide out in my room till the movers are done. No, we aren't ashamed of you. Just people don't know how to keep their fucking mouths shut when it comes to pro heroes' lives. I shouldn't cuss in front of you. Shit. Wait, fuck.
Bakugo let out a sigh as the kid just stared at him with those big red eyes.
If you sell me out for this, I will do absolutely nothing.
Bakugo huffed. The kid hadn't been around for long, and he already had him wrapped around those little fingers. He was sure it was because of how much he looked like Kirishima. Bakugo groaned in annoyance before handing the baby one of his toys. Kirishima made sure the movers worked quickly, leaving everything that didn't have to be set up just yet in their boxes. He would deal with that later. All he needed, for now, was his bed and furniture to be in their place. He was anxious about Bakugo being trapped in his room with the kid for too long, worried that the little guy would start crying at any second, giving himself away. Luckily, it all took a bit under an hour. Once he had ushered the movers out of the house with a string of thank yous and he closed the door, he let out a sigh of relief. Bakugo, they left, he called out as he made his way to the blonde's room, just to almost run into him as he exited the room.
Fucking finally,
Bakugo grumbled, the baby in his hands making grabbing motions towards Kirishima with a wide smile as soon as he saw him.
Oi, what the hell? I thought we had bonded.
Bakugo scowled as Kirishima took the kid into his arms.
No cursing in front of the kid, he warned.
Hey, Pebble, how are you? Did your dad behave? He said as his attention was suddenly engulfed by the kid. He hadn't seen him all day, and it felt like a lifetime if he was honest. Those red eyes that looked so much like Bakugo's already working their magic on him as the kid babbled in his arms. Bakugo rolled his eyes, but a smile was pulling at the corner of his lips.
He won't tell you anything. We have a deal. Right, kid?
He chuckled as he made his way to the kitchen. It was getting late, and the kid hadn't had anything to eat in a while.
Oh, so you two are keeping secrets now, Kirishima chuckled. Bakugo just shrugged. You'll never know. We need to give him a name, by the way. You said we would do that today.
Don't remind me, Kirishima groaned before kissing the kid's forehead, the little one trying to grab at Kirishima's long hair as he continued babbling.
Pizza tonight?
Bakugo offered as he came back with a small container of baby food and a baby-sized spoon.
Sounds great, Kirishima grinned.
How about Hinata, then? Kirishima suggested before taking a bite of his pizza. They were sitting on the sofa while the TV was playing the news in the background, which neither of them was paying much attention to.
No, that's horrible,
Bakugo told him.
He needs a name, Katz. Well, none of these names are good enough for him,
Bakugo declared.
Right, little man?
The kid was too busy biting into his shark teething toy to even pay them any attention as he sat between them.
Well, maybe if we pick one,
Kirishima groaned.
Did you never have a name picked out for whenever you had a kid?
He asked, mostly out of frustration.
Never thought I would have one,
Bakugo answered without any hesitation as he grabbed another slice of pizza.
You never thought about having children?
Kirishima asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice.
Never thought anyone would want to have a kid with me,
Bakugo corrected with a shrug, a hand going to move one of the baby's toys away from the edge of the sofa.
Guess you had no choice in the matter.
Kirishima was quiet for a second, watching Bakugo carefully.
I wouldn't have it any other way,
Kirishima said, keeping his eyes on how the little one was shaking his teething toy while babbling to himself. He didn't want to see Bakugo's reaction to his words, or for him to see right through them. There was a lot he wished was different about the situation, but the person he was going through all of this with? There was no one other than Bakugo he would rather do it with.
At least it's with my best friend, you know?
He smiled, looking up to find Bakugo looking at him with an expression on his face he couldn't quite read. Bakugo looked away first, clearing his throat.
I've always liked the name Katsumi for a girl, but that's not fucking helpful at the moment.
Kirishima felt his heart skip a beat as a soft smile pulled on his lips.
That's actually a really cute name, and people think you aren't a softie,
Kirishima teased with a small shove to Bakugo's arm.
Tell anyone and you're dead meat, Red,
Bakugo chuckled. You would leave our kid with just one parent? Kirishima gasped dramatically, pulling the baby into his lap.
Look at that face. You want to explain to him why his dad is suddenly gone? I'm sure he will understand,
Bakugo said with a smirk before taking a bite of his slice.
Wait, how about naming him after someone?
Kirishima questioned.
Like who, Red?
Bakugo asked with a raised eyebrow.
Maybe after one of our friends?
Kirishima offered, but it sounded more like a question than a suggestion.
No fucking way,
Bakugo said without hesitation.
One of our mentors? They say name your kid after someone you want them to be like, right?
Kirishima chewed on his bottom lip as he tried to think of something. Maybe naming the kid after Fat Gum? Or even Aizawa-sensei?
I think that would put a lot of pressure on the kid, eh?
Bakugo said with a sigh before finishing off his slice, standing up to put the leftovers on the counter for now.
Maybe we should just leave this for later,
he said as he headed to the kitchen. Kirishima nodded. They had gone through a whole list of names, and nothing seemed right.
I almost forgot,
Kirishima said as he stood up to follow with the kid in his arms.
Sarah was bringing Riot over tomorrow when the squad comes to visit. Hey, do you really think it's a good idea?
Bakugo asked with a sigh.
We can't keep riding out with our friends forever, Katz,
Kirishima told him.
I know. And Shinzo said he would bring Al tomorrow, too. Just realizing how much of a fucking shit show this is gonna be.
Bakugo grumbled as he went back towards the living room to clean off the coffee table where they had been eating.
Language, Katz,
Kirishima told him with an eye roll.
Do you want me to start using fudge and shoot or something?
Bakugo groaned.
Maybe. Would be entertaining, at least.
Kirishima chuckled.
This is censorship.
I don't want his first word to be fuck.
Well, it could be shit. You never know,
Bakugo said with a smirk.
You were the worst,
Kirishima said with a pout.
Hey, it would make a great story,
Bakugo shrugged. Kirishima just let out a sigh, a small smile pulling at his lips as he watched Bakugo put the leftover pizza into the fridge and start washing dishes.
What do you think they'll say?
Kirishima asked. He had been worried about their friends meeting their kid. Most of all, how would the little pebble handle so many people at once? They were trying to keep it quiet. So much so that he hadn't been able to tell his moms that they had a grandchild. Not only that, he was sure Mina had a lot to say about their new living arrangement.
All of them would. No clue. But make sure the kid isn't squashed by Mina, Bakugo said, turning toward Kirishima and giving the kid a smile. Also, don't let Denki carry him. Okay, fair point. Denki would probably drop him. Kirishima agreed with a laugh, the kid looking up at him in curiosity. A part of Kirishima knew that the little pebble was already loved by all their friends, even though they hadn't even met him yet. So, Bakugo started as he rubbed the back of his neck. They had finished giving the kid a bath that involved a lot of splashing. The kid was tiny, but somehow managed to get both of them drenched from head to toe. Bakugo had been able to sneak away to change while Kirishima changed the gremlin into his pajamas. Where is he going to sleep tonight? With you or with me? The kid nestled calmly against his chest, tired out after his bath, already drifting off into sleep. Kirishima dried off his hair with a towel now that his hands were free. Bakugo tried not to stare at the fact that he had taken off his wet shirt and was standing around shirtless. It was normal for Kirishima to be shirtless most of the time anyway. I mean, he can sleep with me if you want, Kirishima offered. I don't mind, Bakugo said a bit too quickly. The weight against his chest felt rather comforting, and the way one of those small hands was holding onto his shirt made him hesitate even more. He wasn't sure he would be able to ever place the little boy down ever again. Kirishima smiled fondly at him, taking a couple of steps toward him. He's incredible, isn't he? He placed a hand on the baby's back ever so gently. Bakugo's breath hitched at how close Kirishima was to him, and he just hoped that his hammering heart wouldn't wake the kid up. I was just saying, since you're such a fucking heavy sleeper, you would probably not wake up if you started crying, Bakugo tried as he took a step back, needing some distance in order to breathe once more. Too close, way too close. Oh, come on, I'm not that bad, Kirishima laughed. You forget that I was with you during that mission in Nara, Red, Bakugo huffed as he made his way out of the bathroom and toward his room. I hadn't slept in 3 days and I was exhausted, Kirishima defended himself with a groan as he followed. And yet the sound of a collapsing building didn't wake you up, Bakugo chuckled as he reached his room, sitting on his bed with a sigh. And yet you yelling at me to move my fucking ass did the job. Kirishima rolled his eyes, but his smile didn't falter. He stood awkwardly at the doorway of Bakugo's room, unsure of what to do, unsure if he was allowed further inside. Don't use that type of language around the kid, fucker, Bakugo teased. I was quoting you, so technically it wasn't me, Kirishima said, and his eyes met Bakugo's. They stood in silence for a while, the seconds ticking by as they looked at each other. Bakugo's mouth felt dry. Maybe he could ask Kirishima to stay. They could just share the bed. It was big enough for both of them. The kid had his own cot that they'd gotten while the new crib arrived. It was right there next to his bed. That way they would both be there in case the kid needed them. And it just made sense, right? It would be so much easier, and Kirishima's room wasn't quite done yet. It made sense, right? He just had to... Well, good night, bro, Kirishima said with a smile, waving as he started walking away. Call me if you need anything. Yeah, will do. Good night, eh? Bakugo said as he watched Kirishima go until he couldn't see him anymore. Bakugo let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair. Fuck. He needed to stop being such a fucking coward.